My good friend Kermit the Frog always says it's not easy being green. But turns out being green is a good thing. It's a great thing when you're a homeowner, and it might even make your house more appealing to future buyers. So if you want to know more about that, stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. My guest today is the one and only Mark Viggiani from Keller Williams Realty. Hey, Mark.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Why don't you just give a little more of an interesting intro than I just did? Tell everyone a little bit about you before we move on.
Okay. I'm a long-term Monmouth County resident. I'm a full-time real estate professional. I represent Keller Williams, and I'm here to help people facilitate their real estate needs to get their end goal met.
To get their end goal met. Yeah, I like how you say that, because there is a goal in mind, and we do depend on a realtor to help us get to that goal. All right, so Kermit the Frog. I don't know how I managed to get that in there, but we're talking about being green today. And, I'm looking at some of the notes you sent me, and it said the first line, seniors grew up with greener practices than we have today. I totally agree with that. When we were growing up, though, and our parents, we didn't call it being green. We didn't call it being environmentally friendly. I don't think those expressions were, part of our normal conversation. It was just being responsible, and it was the way we lived, right?
Yeah, my father was um, a depression baby, and it really, thinking about it, and my grandfather, it was a matter of they weren't wasteful, and they got every piece of the pig was used for cooking, for whatever. Nothing or very, very little went to waste.
That goes with, we talked with paper bags, with string, with I mean, everything that came in the house somehow got recycled. Again, I don't
Yep.
think we ever said the word recycled. I
No.
don't think that was the word, but I remember milk being delivered in glass bottles. You never threw anything out. We didn't have recycling the way we have it now,
Right.
but we returned the glass milk bottles in the milk box, and the next week you got more milk. Everything was very purposefully recycled without
Right.
using the word recycling.
And it took a conscious effort to
Oh,
actually do it. So there was a
yes.
responsibility. Whereas now it's just a matter of, oh, what bin? But our parents also got something back sometimes when they sent something back to be reused. There was a deposit that you got back. There was an
Yes.
incentive. And again, it made their lives, when money's tight, cost effective.
So I can remember kids when we were growing up who used to save all the soda cans and the bottles. Actually, I don't have a soda can handy, but it used to say right on the soda can, 2 cents, 5 cents, whatever it was, right?
Yep.
And I did have friends who collected, what felt like mountains in giant garbage baggies of aluminum cans and bottles and all sorts of things, and they got money back.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
as kids, we did all of this. Turns out we were really on the right track.
Yeah. Without just, again, at the time, it wasn't necessarily an environmental issue. It was more of an economical
Yes.
way of being. But the bottom line, it's doing the right thing. So when you're doing the right thing, obviously it's good. You're doing the right thing for yourself. It's the right thing for the planet.
Yeah, it turns out all those years, everything we were doing, it was the right thing for our pocketbooks, and it was the right thing for the environment. And you know what? If you didn't return one of those glass milk bottles, you got charged for it.
Right.
So you didn't make that mistake again.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But now let's just talk about here we are in what year are we in 2023? Think about that.
For a couple months.
Yeah, yeah. So a few more months. Yeah. So what are the kind of trends that you're seeing now, for greener practices and seniors?
Um, I know to a degree, not that I know, but my experience to a degree is there's a lot more technology involved today in every
Oh,
aspect of our lives, whether it's making dinner to turning on the lights or working your thermostat for the heating and cooling. Um, we know intellectually that it seems the more the technology is involved, the more we can run things efficiently. This, the older senior community that I've seen, and I see my mom every day, and she's in her 80s. Um, it's hard to accept that and to embrace the technology and actually use the technology. So that's the difficulty. But there's so much benefit to the senior community when they look at making their lifestyle and their home and their living situation more energy efficient. Um,
like
First
what
of
would be
all,
some examples that you because as a realtor, you're going to go into someone's house and potentially attempt to sell it. So what might you look for?
um, the most simplest thing, and it's like, the first thing you see is the first impression. Energy efficient lights. When I'm with a younger couple looking at a home and they see the energy efficient lights, they see the LED lights, right away they say to themselves, "Oh wow, there's a conscious effort here, that the house is more energy efficient than maybe some other houses where we walk in and um, not only are the windows old, but it's got the old incandescent light bulbs. Um, so again, that again is just one tiny little thing that makes a really good first impression. Another thing is, but this is where the technology is a little difficult, is seeing a programmable thermostat.
Like a smart thermostat kind of yes,
Sure.
okay. Yeah,
Well,
and they're
again,
very
and
common now.
yeah, but the generation below that is programmable with a battery, and you can't do it with your
Oh, yeah,
phone,
yeah, you're
but
right,
you
you're
still
right.
program it. I have trouble programming a programmable thermostat, but again, it runs the heat in the winter when you need it, and keeps it cooler temperature when you don't, and in the summer it pulls the house when you need it, and there's hours when you don't. So your equipment is running at efficient times. So that's another literally inexpensive small thing that will make a difference for the homeowner, as well as that's something the potential home buyer down the road is going to see.
Well, I think it's true that there are a lot of seniors who do not embrace technology, and this, there are I hear even some of my friends saying, "Oh, when my son comes, he'll take care of that." My daughter will show me how to do that.
Right.
But all right, but well, that's I feel like, what are you waiting for? Embrace it already. It's here to stay. But that's another show.
Sure.
Um,
But
you know, one of our main sponsors at Scan is New Jersey Natural Gas. And periodically they come on FYI with us. Gary Pavarnik is usually my guest. And he
hmm,
always talks about the idea of you know, making your home energy efficient. Because first of all, the idea that we're talking about is making yourself comfortable in your own home. And there's so many things as the homeowner, it turns out, you can do. But just what you're saying, changing a thermostat, changing your light bulbs, two very minor things, but
mhm.
potentially make a huge difference in saving money.
Yep, absolutely. The other thing that's so simple, I mean, upgrading to energy efficient appliances,
Yeah.
mechanicals, uh, which obviously has a much greater cost to it, but just properly maintaining your existing equipment, making sure that the furnace has been serviced, that the filters are clean, the AC coils are unclogged and free, because when they're not maintained properly, they're working harder. When they're working harder, they're expending, they're needing more energy to do their job. So
Costing you
even
more
without
money.
spending a lot of money just in changing anything, just making sure what you have is in the, just like your car. You get it tuned up, you change the oil on a regular basis. If you don't, you notice the gas mileage is going up, and eventually the car is not going to run at all if you forget not running right. It's the same thing with, all of our appliances at home. People don't realize with the air, with the refrigerator, there's a condenser. And a lot of which uses airflow. A lot of stuff gets stuck in there. The more stuff gets stuck in there, the less airflow, the more the condenser on the refrigerator has to work, and now you're expending more energy. So it's even things that don't cost a lot of money on a large cost item that will make a difference.
Well, Mark, something like a water heater, which of course every home has, whether it's gas or electric, everyone has one. And so when you replace your water heater with something energy efficient, and like for example, you're with a couple and they're walking through a house deciding whether or not is this a good fit for me? Do you find that your clients take notice of the appliances that, oh, this is a newer dishwasher, it's energy efficient. Oh, the washer, the dryer, etc. Do you find that people are really noticing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So and on top of that, I'll point it out because that's a good selling point too. I'll know when a
Right.
furnace is high efficient, or the water heater is new, or it's a tankless water heater, which means it's only making hot water when you need it, as opposed to constantly heating water to keeping it at a certain temperature in a 50-gallon, storage tank.
These are all things that if you do these things to your home as a senior, and then ultimately down the road, you're going to sell your home, this is going to be very helpful.
Right. Oh, and I've come across people who want to put their home on the market. They know the water heater is going to be, you know, it's 20 years old. They're
Well, on
warranted
borrowed
for
time.
6 to 12 years, is the warranty from the manufacturer. And, they're thinking, well, I'm going to sell the house anyway. My advice is, you know, get a good piece of equipment there. Don't just get the cheapest replacement you possibly can. Um, because the new, it's going to make a difference when somebody sees your house with a higher efficiency, newer unit than another house that, you could tell it's not the same.
When I moved in to my place about a little more than 2 years ago, very first thing was replacing the water heater because it was 20 years old. It had the date on it. And I remember thinking, oh my God, every morning when I would wake up, please don't overflow. Please, just give me another day. Give me another day. So yeah, that would have been wonderful if they had, but then I question, there's a lot of people that live in a home with things that are really, under par, and they don't fix it up until they move or they're getting ready to move. And I'm always puzzled, why wouldn't you do that for yourself if you're living there? That's a good
um,
question.
it's a very good question. I find a lot of people, when they're used to something, they're comfortable and don't actually even realize that they're selling themselves short.
Because you could be living more comfortably as well.
Sure. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, the green movement, not only as far as the home goes for the senior community, it's a big boost also for their um, for their liveliness. There's a lot of moves in certain areas for community gardens.
Yes.
And that's something that you find what's very cool is usually a mixed generation of people, including seniors. Um, there's a lot of trails out there now. A lot of towns in their parks are making sure there's some nature trails that are accessible. Um, it's good socialization for the senior community to get out and take part in these things.
Yep.
Join a bird watching group. Like I said, the community garden, composting, as a group. And even I'm finding the larger senior living buildings like assisted living, or just a 55 and over adult community, are incorporating a lot of that into it also. They're
Yes.
some of their food that they cook up and serve is they're growing in a garden right there.
Okay. Yeah.
They're repurposing rainwater for irrigation and different things. So it's really a universal movement within the senior community at every level, whether it's a couple living by themselves or moving on to another living arrangement where it's communal living, let's say.
Yeah, and with Scan, I do find myself going out on the road a lot, going to various senior communities, and in my mind, the best of them always have some green space for the residents, whether it's
Mhm.
a little patio where you can sit outside and just commune with nature, or some of them have big elaborate walking trails and ponds and all sorts of things. But we never lose that connection with nature even as we age, and I think it's a good thing for people of all ages, but I think seniors definitely appreciate some of that green space. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. And again, it's a opportunity, again, for socialization, but multi-general socialization. Our senior community has so much to teach our younger community. I remember, my grandfather in his 70s, planting tomatoes in the garden. Uh, we didn't buy fertilizer; we used horse manure. Just there's, if he wasn't living in the house with us and he didn't take on those things, and he didn't just necessarily do it as a hobby; it was a way of life for him anyway. So, there's so much we can benefit from sharing these experiences.
Yeah, so many of my friends there who, older than myself even, but even my generation, that grew up with parents and grandparents who had these fabulous gardens. And it wasn't just, oh, for the fun of it. I mean, it was a serious gardening endeavor. They grew their food and they canned it. And I was always very impressed with that. And you're right also that some of the senior communities have huge common garden areas for the residents, which is, just because we are getting older doesn't mean we lose our love of all of that. And
Right.
and we were green before it was popular to be
Right.
green. We didn't
Yeah.
call it green. We just this is how we
The way
lived.
we lived. Yeah.
So if you can incorporate that into your life even now, and it could be as simple as changing out your incandescent light bulbs, right?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And there's programs out there. You talked about New Jersey Natural
Yeah.
Gas. I'm, I would not be surprised if there's any state or governmental programs out there also that could, help you get on your way.
And the
It's
electric company not
Yeah.
everyone has gas. Where I
Sure.
live, it's all electric. So, what is it? Whatever, Jersey Central
JCP
Power and
now.
Light, whatever
Yeah.
it's called. All of the utility companies offer you these opportunities to upgrade your home to something more green. And there's
Right.
always incentives to do so. Yeah.
And even those companies themselves are embracing more of the green technology. The gas and electric company have embraced solar power. So again, it's something that's got to involve everybody for it to make a difference. And there's so many people out there trying. And I think, the senior community has a big influence in this.
Well, are you finding as you're dealing with younger people and older people, probably that the younger people they are looking for ways to be more environmentally responsible in their home, right in their home?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things is how old are the windows? That's the first place where your house will lose thermal efficiency, usually. But again, if the windows are older, but they do see other steps have taken in their mind, okay, we don't have to do everything, and it is a big taking on to change, all the windows in a house.
It
So I
is.
wouldn't
It is. Yeah.
suggest, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't suggest doing it unless you have the means to do it, but do those other things and just make everything. And again, our senior community, very rarely do I come across where the equipment, the mechanics, the appliances aren't maintained because, again, that was the way of life as it is. But listen, the younger seniors, 55 and over, so I'm just there. There's a big generation gap. It's amazing how many generations now are considered seniors from, there's still people alive from the early 1900s up until the 1980s. We're past our 50s. So I think the younger demographic of that larger demographic does not have the mindset. They know they've got to be green, but they don't also realize that, it's we're more willing to take shortcuts, it seems. And just because we didn't have to do it growing up, our parents and our older seniors, I mean, again, like I said, it was their way of life. They had to. So it's, and I think that's part of the unbalance of all this too. So, it's a challenge. It's the only earth we have. We're stewards of it. And if we can, keep it healthy, and it'll keep us healthy. And, everything starts at the home.
Yes. And I'll tell you one thing I have learned from speaking multiple times to the folks at New Jersey Gas is when you make your home more green, well, you're saving green, you're saving money. So energy efficiency equals saving money. And I'm sorry, but everyone needs to be doing that these days.
Yeah.
Come on, save money.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you want to save money? Yes, you might have to spend a little bit, but you know what? In the long run, you're going to save money, and that's a good thing. So saving green, saving money.
Yeah, I mean, it's an investment. And, the return is not always immediate, but it pays off. And that's what an investment is. Something that you invest in today will benefit you down the road.
Mark, if people are listening and they're curious to know a little bit more about, greening up their home, or maybe they're interested in, changing their residence, I'm putting all of your contact info in the description so people can reach out to you. Mark is a great resource,
awesome.
A great resource. And that's important because sometimes you just need to have a conversation. That's all. You're not necessarily moving, but you need to talk to someone who's in the know. Mark is in the know.
Thanks, Andrea.
Yes. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being my guest today. I appreciate all the good info.
That was my pleasure.
All right. Remember out there, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr, and we'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone, and bye, Mark.